right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Turf Talk. We are back. It's me and my boy Dylan. You guys may know us from Twitter. Of course, you can find me at Scotty Drowned. My man Dylan at DylanJD98. This exclusive Turf Talk show is presented to you by DSM Media. Make sure you're tapped in. Make sure you got the notifications on. Make sure you're subscribed to DSM Media, following on Twitter at DSM_media. We got big plans, guys. So make sure you guys are following along. You do not want to be left out. We got huge tailgate plans coming up in August. So you definitely want to be tapped in. Make sure you're finding out all the latest news, everything we got going on. Obviously, a ton of content on this channel. Make sure you're subscribed in. But Dylan, what's up, my man? We're going to talk some AFC North, some NFC North today, some Deshaun Watson to Philly. You guys see it on the screen there. How you feeling today, Dylan?
What's going on, man? I'm excited to be back. I just got back from a 2-week vacation out to Poconos, which I love the Poconos. I go there every summer, but 2 weeks is a long time to be out the Poconos doing the same thing over and over again. And I'm now exclusively here with you guys at DSM Media. So it's our first exclusive Turf Talk on DSM Media. A lot of what you said, follow, guys, turn on notifications. We're on everything. We're on Twitter at DSM_media. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. So please go subscribe to our YouTube channel. And just to touch on Scotty's tailgate point, since this is our first Turf Talk exclusively on DSM Media, since we will be doing a live show at the tailgate, let's expand on that, Scott. So, guys, come hang out with us August 22nd around probably between 4 and 5 p.m. It'll start. We are doing a tailgate and an Eagle and a live show at the second Eagles open practice at the link. We're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff. We're going to be giving out 5 or 6 free tickets to go into the open practice with us if you come hang out and subscribe to the channels. We are going to be giving away a Devontae Smith jersey. We possibly have a Jalen Hurts t-shirt to give away as well. Free food, free beer. Come hang out with us and have a good time with the guys at DSM Media.
Exactly, man. And you covered it all there. As we said, huge plans. This is obviously a Philly-centric show. So we are going to do a lot of stuff with the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously. We're going to be at a lot of their events. So definitely make sure you guys are following along. As we said, we're going to dive into some NFC North, some AFC North talk. But before we get into that, obviously there was a huge, I guess I won't call it huge. It was kind of just Adam Schefter kind of throwing his opinion out there.
It's huge news, but it's obvious. Like it's not breaking news to anybody. Obviously, the Eagles are very well equipped. I do think it's interesting that they're expected to make a strong push for him if the legal issues are gone or are taken care of at that when that happens and if that happens. But it's definitely not breaking news to everybody that the Eagles are well equipped to go make a trade for Deshaun Watson.
Right. And so I actually have like 2 quotes here from Adam Schefter, and obviously Adam Schefter is well-respected source. Obviously works for ESPN. So he said the Eagles are in the best position to trade for Texans star QB Deshaun Watson. Obviously, we pointed that out. But he also said if you put Deshaun Watson on the Eagles, they become a Super Bowl contender right away. So I guess dive right into that, because I kind of want to get your opinion on that. How do you feel? Do you think the Eagles are catapulted by Deshaun Watson just straight into contending?
Contending for the playoffs? A Super Bowl contender. I don't know about all that. Maybe. I do think Deshaun Watson is a top 5, top 7 at most quarterback in this league already. He's only 25 years old. Again, this is from a purely football standpoint. Here's what I'll phrase to you, Scott. If you are an Eagles fan and you say I do not want to trade for Deshaun Watson, and it's from a football point of view, I can't take you seriously anymore. Like I can't. Like, what are we doing here if you don't want to trade for Deshaun Watson from a football perspective. But to go to Adam Schefter's point, to say that they jump automatically to a Super Bowl contender, look, he is that good. He is that special. I just don't know how good the rest of this Eagles team is going to be. You have a first-time head coach in Nick Sirianni. Gannon's taken over the defense. The defensive line is getting older. They still have holes at the linebacking position and in the secondary. The offensive line is getting older and coming off major injuries. You have a lot of young talent offensively that has to prove themselves, quite frankly, in Jalen Reagor, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert is expected to get an extension like tight end 1. Devontae Smith coming into the system. So, listen, I love it. I would be so pumped if the Eagles trade for Deshaun Watson. I will not say that it makes them a Super Bowl contender until I see this young core kind of, if they can impress me and it's like, okay, Deshaun Watson can take them to that next level, then I get it. But to just say that point blank now after they won, 4 games last year and they were a bad roster, I can't put any stock into that.
Yeah, and to your point, I think when you're looking at this Eagles team, there's just a lot of ifs. Like, obviously, we are very optimistic in Philly about this squad. And I think it's because they have such low expectations. Like, you're not going to be heartbroken this year when they don't make the playoffs. Like, we understand that this is a young team they're kind of building here. So to your point, I do think Deshaun Watson, you add him in, it does catapult you to probably the top of the division. Like,
sure, I think you win the division at that point.
Yeah, I think you win the division at that point. Depending on the Cowboys, you got to see how Dak plays out. They still have a really talented roster. But you're looking at Deshaun Watson, right? Led the league in passing last year, 4,823 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The 33 touchdowns were 7th in the NFL, had close to 500 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, averaging 5 yards a carry. I mean, this guy is a stud, and it's been that way for a while now. He's been doing it since Clemson. So to your point, like, from a football perspective, it just makes too much sense. Like, we would love Deshaun Watson in Philly. Now, all the allegations off the field, that's not for us to go into. We're not lawyers. We're not, right. You know what I mean? We don't deal with that. We're not the NFL who hands out punishments. So we'll see how that plays out. I would assume that the Eagles won't touch this guy if these things are even close to true. So from that perspective, I have to trust the Eagles. I have to trust the organization and what they're willing to do as far as that. But you talk about what the Eagles can offer. We have potentially 3 first-round picks if Carson Wentz, just plays all right this year, if he can just start enough games. You got Jalen Hurts, guy from Houston, right? Like, why wouldn't they want him back? Like, if you're getting 2 to 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, what else do you want back with that? Like, other than Jalen Hurts, who could go there and start, literally. He's about to start for the Eagles. So I'm looking at all of this, and then you throw in even things like Zach Ertz, you know what I mean? He's still lingering here. Like, you don't know what's going on with him. Now, the big thing is, do they make this move? Because obviously it doesn't seem like these accusations are going to get cleared up before this season. So Deshaun Watson probably isn't going anywhere. He's probably not playing this year. So it's like, you do have to wait until next season. So that's the caveat, because I am somebody that kind of believes in Jalen Hurts. Like, I am starting to get on the hype train a little bit. Now, obviously, he has to prove some stuff on the field, but, I was talking to you the other day, and I was just like, does Deshaun – I was kind of clouded in my mind, honestly, when I was texting you. And I was just like, is that going to disrupt kind of what we're doing here in Philly with the youth movement, Nick Sirianni, the new head coach, the young head coach, the young wide receiving core? But no, it is what it is. When you have a quarterback like that available, you have to go out and you have to get it. I get the love for Jalen Hurts, but it's not a sure thing to any degree. It's not a sure thing. Deshaun Watson is a sure thing. We just got to see how that off the field stuff plays out.
So a couple things here. I am not yet sold on Jalen Hurts. I'm optimistic. I love what the kid brings athletically. The dual threat. But like you said, he has things to prove on the field, and to me, he has a decent amount of those things to prove on the field. But I am excited to see it and see how he can play with this young, fast offense with this new head coach who, is supposed to be this great offensive mind. So I am excited from that perspective. But what I'll say about your timeline is this: for all you Jalen Hurts, people out there that are already sold in, or that the people that I mentioned earlier that don't want to move Deshaun Watson, don't want to trade for Deshaun Watson because I got to see what I have in Jalen Hurts. Well, you're in luck because this move isn't coming before 2021 starts. So you're going to get to see what Jalen Hurts has. My issue with it all is even if Jalen Hurts impresses this year, right, and he looks good, and the Eagles win 7-8 games, whatever it is, but he looks good, what do you do? Because in my mind, even if he looks good, you still make the move if you can. Because at that point, Deshaun Watson, I said it, he's a top 5 quarterback in this league. I'd have to go down, I'd have to rank him, but he's at least a top 5 to 7 quarterback in this league. It's proven. You said the numbers earlier, and that is on a shitty Houston Texans team, even worse than this Philadelphia Eagles team is put together, okay? And then you're banking on Jalen Hurts. You're basically saying if you're keeping Jalen Hurts and you could make the move for Watson, but you say no, you're banking that Jalen Hurts is a top 5 to 7 quarterback in this league at that point that can carry you to win a championship.
And so I guess what I would ask you, what would it take Jalen Hurts for you to not do it? Would he have to have a Carson Wentz 2017?
Yes.
Then you know what I mean?
Yes.
MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it would have to be. I mean, we've seen Deshaun Watson be an MVP candidate.
Again,
the MVP caliber player.
This isn't, I'm not just saying it to say it. I'm saying if the trade was the draft picks and whatever to get Watson, and Houston was on the phone saying, I'll do it. You do it. You do it. Unless he has some crazy, phenomenal sophomore year and he leads this team into the playoffs and whatever, then maybe you don't do it. But if he's just good, if he just impresses and raises some eyebrows, that's still not top 5 in the league.
Yeah.
So, I mean, listen, you would be giving up 3 first-round picks to get Deshaun Watson. And the other issue about the timeline is, he's not going to play this year. So he's 25 right now. He's going to be 26. I don't know when his birthday is. He could be closer to 27 by the time he plays again in the NFL. He's going to have over a year and a half off probably. So that there are some concerns there. Maybe that drives down the price a little bit, especially for the fact that he doesn't even want to be in Houston. Remember, he wanted out of Houston before these allegations ever came up. So that drops the price a little bit anyway, because he's just not going to play in Houston. They're going to move him. Yeah. So it's very interesting. But the last point of the timeline is, no, you were texting me the other day when this, not rumor drop, but the Schefter thing quotes came out, and you were like, does it move speeding up the timeline, or does he not fit the timeline with the youth movement? And Jalen Hurts is 22. No, because of his age, he is 25 years old, like I just said. Yeah. And if anything, he speeds up your timeline, like Schefter said, already putting him as a Super Bowl contender. So you don't have to wait for Jalen Hurts to progress, to develop, anything like that. You have a top 5 quarterback in this league who's still in his mid-20s. We talk all about how young Ben Simmons is, right? Yeah. And that's the one thing that people hold on to when they want to keep Ben Simmons. He's the same age as Deshaun Watson. So you get what I'm saying there. So, it's a lot to go through, man. But I can't wrap my head around the people that say no from a football perspective. If you don't like him because he's a shitty guy, if what he did is true, then I don't want him either. Right. But we do live in a country where it's innocent it's innocent until proven guilty. Yeah. And if it comes out that he didn't do these it's not, these accusations aren't true, he didn't do any of this stuff, then why would you not want Deshaun Watson?
Wouldn't make sense. And
it's out there. I've seen it. I've seen the people that are just like, no, because I believe in Jalen Hurts. What?
See, and that isn't what I was saying.
No. I know it's not you.
Because I know exactly what you mean. I wasn't saying that. I was kind of just speaking on, would it be kind of worthless for Deshaun Watson to move from Houston to Philly? If you know what I mean, if you're in a shitty situation as well here.
You also had mentioned to me the other day about his contract, and I believe he signed through 2022. So if he's not moved till next year, that without an extension, you have him for 1 year. Obviously, if you're making that trade, he comes with an extension. Right. It's probably a heavy price tag at that point. So Because I had said to you about their cap situation after this year opens back up after the Wentz contract gets off the books. And then it's like, okay, you bring Watson in here with this young offense, bring in some big players defensively in the free agent market with all that money. Yeah. And you were like, well, you're going to have to extend Watson. So that money kind of dwindles down. And you're right. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Because you know how he's a wizard with those contracts.
Oh yeah, that's I guess the one thing he can do.
He could push like the guaranteed money down. You know, he could work his magic, pushing that a few years back. So it doesn't worry me too much. I think they would still be able to go out and grab some help for him as well next offseason. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. We still got a long way to go. We got a whole season to get through. Obviously, just some interesting quotes from Adam Schefter. Anytime he speaks, you listen when it comes to the NFL. And definitely something we had to talk about for sure.
Right.
You got to let the Deshaun Watson hate go from the football field perspective. He would be the best thing that's happened to Philly in a long time on the football field. So I'll leave it at that.
Dude, he's a top 5 quarterback in the league.
Top 5 quarterback, man. He's everything that we thought.
And that's my beef. Like, you don't want him because you want to see what you have in Jalen Hurts. By the way, what you're going to get this year. So what is it after this year? If Jalen Hurts is just good or he's like a little underwhelming, but people still think he can develop, right? So what's it then? Oh, I still want to see what I have in Jalen Hurts and not trade for Deshaun Watson in 2020. Look, what are we doing?
So then the last thing before I move on from that, how interested would you be in now? And I know this isn't it's probably not possible because I don't think he would be interested. How interested would you be in an Aaron Rodgers move?
Yeah. Yeah. I know he's older.
Aaron Rodgers, dude.
Listen, so do I.
He does not fit our timeline at all, but I love the.
Not at all, but like if you bring in Aaron Rodgers, now that's a guy right now. Like I know I just said Deshaun Watson's top 5, so it doesn't really make sense to say this. But Aaron Rodgers, even with this not so well put together roster, if he played for the Eagles this year, makes you a Super Bowl contender. Like he just does. He's Aaron freaking Rodgers.
Legit. So we'll kind of switch it up here, get into some of the division breakdowns. As you guys, as we kind of mentioned in our previous show, obviously that was a while ago, so everybody won't.
Yeah, man,
won't really remember, but
that was the Eagle schedule release,
right. Which we are going to do another schedule breakdown as well towards the beginning of the season. But from here on out, the next 4 weeks, I believe, we got the division breakdowns coming out. So we'll go NFC, AFC North. And we'll kind of just go like that through the divisions for the next, well, I guess 3 weeks after this. But we got the AFC North and the NFC North to go through today. We'll kind of just go through our predictions for the division, off-season moves, anything, that might sway the tide. And then, of course, just positional breakdowns, really breaking it down where these teams excel. So, Dylan, I'll toss it to you. Which one of these divisions do you want to get into first? The NFC North, we just talked about Aaron Rodgers, or the AFC North, we got the Ravens, Browns, Steelers. That's a packed division is right there as well.
Yeah, let's go with the more competitive division, in my opinion. That's on the AFC side of things.
Yeah.
In the AFC North with these Ravens, Browns, Steelers, and Bengals. Scott, if you just want to run through any notable off-season, acquisitions or moves throughout that division.
Yeah, so there honestly wasn't a ton of moves going on in that division. Sammy Watkins, the Ravens picked him up. That's a nice addition to their wide receiver corps that was really struggling last year. I mean, Hollywood Brown's a decent wide receiver, but he's not a number one. Now, don't get that twisted. Sammy Watkins is not either.
No.
But they also added Rashad Bateman in the draft, which I think that's a huge help if he can pan out for them. The Browns, they added Jadeveon Clowney. That was a pretty huge move. They also added Malik Jackson. You then had Baltimore added some offensive line help in Kevin Zeitler. The Bengals obviously drafted Jamar Chase. They didn't do too much in free agency. And then you had, as far as losses, you had the Steelers losing James Conner, which they kind of replaced him with Najee Harris in the draft. The Baltimore Ravens cut Mark Ingram. Pittsburgh is also going to lose Steven Nelson. And Pittsburgh lost a few offensive linemen as well, including Villanueva, who went to the Ravens, I believe. So just a lot of movement as far as the Steelers' offensive line, as well as their defense. But those were the major moves. There wasn't too much more going on there, aside from, draft day implications. So we can kind of just get right into that division.
Yeah.
That division had 3 playoff teams last year. So as you said, it's probably the most competitive, maybe aside from NFC West.
With one of, if I'm remembering correctly, the most surprising playoff game. That Steelers-Browns playoff game was nuts, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
It feels like a lifetime ago, so I'm drawing a blank a little bit, but I remember something crazy happening.
I remember.
Was it just the Browns blowing the Steelers out of the water, or was it the Steelers up big and then the Browns came back?
I feel like the Browns came back because I feel like I have a bunch of Steelers fan friends, and they're always talking shit. So I feel like they were talking big shit early, and it came back to bite them. But I could be totally wrong there. But you're looking down that division. The Steelers were the number 1 in the division last year.
Oh, no, that's what it was. So the Browns won 48-37, but the Browns were up. They scored 28 in the first quarter.
Oh, yeah.
It was 28-0.
They came out firing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they almost blew it. Yep. Okay. I knew it wasn't either of the two things I said it could be, but it was close. I knew something weird went on in that Browns-Steelers playoff game last year. So if you want to, here's what I want to do for these divisional breakdowns. And you guys, please feel, if you're watching live with us right now, please feel free to drop your comments. We'll get to as many as we can. Interact with us. Give us your thoughts on these 2 divisions and these rankings. But I basically want to look at 4 major categories, 2 from each side of the ball, and we'll kind of rank them 1 through 4 throughout their divisions. And then after that, going by where we have those ranked and just overall feel for these teams and these divisions. No, I did not go through each team's schedule. I will plan on doing that later in the summer, but I haven't done that yet. I like to do that closer to training camp. And then we'll kind of just rank after we get through the breakdowns. We'll rank 1 through 4 how we think this division will play out at the end of the year. So Scott, what I want to do is passing attack and rushing attack offensively, and pass rush and pass defense defensively, and kind of how we rank those out will kind of factor into where we rank the division standings. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, man, let's do it. Let's start with the passing attack in the AFC North. This is a really interesting division to me. And like I said to you before the show started, with these 2 divisions being the AFC and NFC North, we have 2 one older proven MVP caliber quarterback who has a lot of drama going on right now. That's very dependent on his situation. And now you have a young stud in Joe Burrow, who's very injury dependent coming in this year with the Bengals. But how do you feel? Who's number 1 in this passing attack in the AFC North for you, between Baker and the Browns, Ravens and Lamar, Steelers and Big Ben, and Burrow and the Bengals?
And so, yeah, so it's kind of a caveat there with the Ravens, right? Because obviously their passing game isn't great, but I would say Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the division, though. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, I think he's the best quarterback in the division, just by his running ability. I mean, that dynamic capability. I'm not taking Baker over him. I would take Lamar Jackson over Baker in a heartbeat. And I guess Baker would be my default second, just because Joe Burrow's coming off the injury. They added a little bit in the offensive line in the draft, but nothing. I thought they should have used that first round pick on an offensive lineman to protect Burrow after tearing that ACL. And then Ben Roethlisberger, I'm over him. They have a great wide receiver.
Ben needs to hang it up, man.
Yeah, he needs to hang it up. And they've done nothing to try to replace him. They picked up Dwayne Haskins. Is that the future? No. I've seen a lot of people predicting that Big Ben is going to get benched at some point this season. But benched for who? You know what I mean? I don't see who he's going to get benched for. Dwayne Haskins, I heard he got like injured by his like girlfriend or something in Las Vegas.
Yeah, he got beat up by his girl or something
in the offseason. So I'm just like, dude, he's already starting out on the wrong foot in Pittsburgh.
He's always something. There's always news about Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, it's wild. So yeah, as far as like, I guess passing game wise, like passing game as a whole, I'm not going to say the Ravens have the best passing game because that's just simply not true. I guess I would have to go Pittsburgh, man. Their wide receiving core, as much as I don't like Ben Roethlisberger, I feel like they had the best wide receiving core. They had the best passing game in the division last year. So I'm looking at Cleveland and Baltimore. Those are heavy running teams. So I'm just not sold on their passing game.
Wow. Okay. So there's one thing that I did want to mention in the middle of all that. The Bengals, their first round draft pick when they went and made the splash for Jamar Chase. That's this. That is because the Bengals are not a very good organization. They're not going to win a lot. So they went with the splashy, sexy wide receiver out of LSU to bring in tickets and jersey sales. That was for nothing else because they know they're not ready to win yet. So they were like, yeah, let's not go offensive line and get booed out of the stadium right here. Let's take Jamar Chase. That's what that was about. B, we disagree. First time on Turf Talk that we disagree. From a passing perspective, I do not think Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the division. He is dynamic. He is maybe the greatest athlete I've seen in the NFL. He is a freak athletically, and that's going to factor into my rushing attack point. But from a passing perspective, I think he is the third best quarterback, and I'm already putting Joe Burrow ahead of him from a passing perspective. Again, not to mention the Ravens wide receivers are, I mean, yeah, they went out and drafted Rashad Bateman. So, people were excited. Oh, Lamar's finally got an outside receiver threat. He's a rookie. He hasn't played a game in the NFL yet, so we have no idea. Hollywood Brown is fantastic when he gets the ball in his hands or on a go route. Outside of that, he doesn't really provide much. They have a very good tight end in Mark Andrews, and they have a dynamic running game. But pass game, no, I do not think he's the best quarterback. I think Baker, I do see George said here, not sold on Baker, but Lamar is an injury waiting to happen. Maybe Lamar is, and I'm not saying I'm sold on Baker and that Baker can lead the Browns to the promised land and lead Cleveland to a championship. But Baker showed something last year. He took that next step, and I think he'll continue to take that step in this offense. They have a great running game as well, so that helps Baker out. They do a lot of what I was hoping the Eagles would do with Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson would do with Carson Wentz last year. That is move the pocket, roll Baker out of the pocket because that's where he's most effective. OBJ is coming back off injury. Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, I believe, is still there. I don't know if Njoku's still there or not. Both running backs can catch the ball in the backfield. I think Cleveland has the best passing attack in the division. Number two, I am going Burrow and the Bengals, but that is very injury dependent. I'm assuming that Joe Burrow is going to come back and be, what he was his rookie year. Then I'll go number 3, Lamar Jackson, and that's kind of just by default because I think the Steelers, I agree with you. They have a great wide receiving core, a young, very good wide receiving core. Big Ben is a disaster. They have no backup. You need someone to get these guys the ball, not turn the ball over to the defense. That's what Big Ben does way too often. So I got Baker and the Browns 1, Burrow and the Bengals 2, injury dependent. Lamar and the Ravens 3, Big Ben and the Steelers 4th.
See, and I guess I just don't look at Cleveland like that because they run the ball so much. Like they do.
But I think Baker feeds off of that.
He does, and I think the same way about Lamar Jackson though. Like that's kind of how I look at him. Is like his dynamic. Now, obviously, he's like from a passing perspective.
Exactly.
He's not very developed as a passer just yet. But just as far as what I was speaking on, I was just speaking on the dynamic ability.
I know.
So, like when I'm going down the list of quarterbacks in that division, I'm going Lamar. Burrow, Burrow. The ACL, the leg injury is just always
scary, man.
It's the mobility, not even just the mobility, but the fear of getting hit, the fear of going outside the pocket. I think we saw Carson Wentz, and I think I've been like tormented by that. The way that injury affected his career. So I'm really worried about Burrow, but he's a talented guy at the end of the day. You hope that he just has the mentality to persevere there. So we'll move to the rushing attack.
Yes,
So
sir.
rushing attack is very interesting. I'll let you go first on this one, and then I'll kind of digress off you. This is the tough one. I'm gonna let you make the tough decisions.
Damn, man. You put me first here. I don't know. Here's what I have. Here's what I have written down for my rankings. I'll stick to it. But this is really a 1A, 1B type of thing to lead this division here. I have the Ravens first. I have the Browns second. And that is because of the dynamic of Lamar Jackson. And then they're just their whole scheme. And, they did cut Mark Ingram, but they still have Dobbins. They have Lamar, and I'm pretty sure Gus Edwards is the third guy there. I just think their whole dynamic. That's why I have them one. But I'm sitting here talking about the Browns, and I think Nick Chubb is a top 5, top 4 running back in this league. You add in Kareem Hunt, who came back last year and kind of reincarnated himself, redeveloped himself in that role as the second guy. Cleveland pounds the ball down your throat. We saw that firsthand as Eagles fans last year in the monsoon in Cleveland. So I can't really. It's hard to disagree with one or the other. I just, first thought was that Lamar dynamic last night when I was kind of prepping for the show. I put Ravens number 1. I'm not going to take it away now, but it's really 1A, 1B there with those two teams. Yeah. Number 3 and 4 is kind of same thing by default. See, Pittsburgh started out, I'm pretty sure 10 or 11-0 last year. That was because of their defense. Their offense, Big Ben was a disaster. That's why he's number 4 on my list for passing attack. Rushing attack, they lost James Conner. They didn't run the ball very well last year at all. And now you replace him with a guy in Najee Harris who's unproven. The Bengals, on the other hand, their offensive line isn't any good. Joe Mixon has a lot of injury concerns. But Joe Mixon is by far the better running back of the two teams. Neither team runs the ball very well. By default, I go Bengals and Joe Mixon third. And then the Steelers' rushing attack is fourth yet again.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie to you, Dylan. I think I have the same exact ranking for you right there, as you right there. As far as just the same thing, Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, he makes that backfield, that running attack just really dynamic. I mean, all I think about when I'm thinking about Lamar Jackson, I just think I have to put some respect on this man's name. I have kind of hated on Lamar Jackson in the past, so I try to put respect on his name these days. I think about like just the open field awareness, like the spin move against Cincinnati, just the way he moves his body, his speed, just very scary when you're playing against the Ravens. And you've seen them kind of get defeated when you're able to stop the run, but it's a very hard task. But you mentioned it, Cleveland, that monster duo in the backfield, and they're not afraid to run it all day. Like, that's the one thing. You mentioned it earlier with the Eagles. They're almost afraid, like they feel like they have to get the quarterback involved or something.
Yeah,
Browns will run it 50 times.
The phrase like run it till they stop it.
Yeah,
the Browns run it till they stop it.
Yeah, literally down your throat, and that's what kind of makes that such a close, call when you're talking about 1A, 1B there, because they are willing and able to run it down your throat. Same thing as you with the offensive lines for the Bengals and the Steelers. It's a concern. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, the Steelers lost a few offensive linemen from their starting lineup. So that's a concern. They lost James Conner. Now, obviously, James Conner wasn't a world beater last year, but
2 years ago he was very good.
Yeah, 2 years ago he was a stud. So you're looking at Najee Harris. I know people are very high on Najee Harris, but like you said, he's a rookie running back. You have to figure out the schemes. You have to figure out the pass blocking. There's a lot that goes into being a starting running back in the NFL. So I imagine he's going to be integrated. It's not just going to be, full haul for Najee Harris here. So I definitely got the Bengals number 3. Joe Mixon, he's at least established in that offense. And I imagine they're going to have some play designs for Joe Mixon to kind of bail out Joe Burrow, keep him off his back. If they're smart, quick out.
One last comment on that Bengals offense right there. Both guys are so injury dependent. Joe Burrow needs Joe Mixon in the backfield to have more success. Vice versa, Joe Mixon really needs Joe Burrow to be healthy. Thank you, George. Because if Joe Burrow's not back there, who's their backup, dude? First of all, they have like 19 backups that they played the last 3 years, but the Bengals, I don't even know who their backup would be at this point. And if Joe Mixon's back there behind that offensive line with no Joe Burrow, yeah, they're going to stack the box all day, and Joe Mixon will not be a very good fantasy football running back this year if Joe Burrow is not healthy. But they're going to need each other to be successful in that offense.
Agreed.
So yeah, man, let's switch sides to the defensive side of the ball, and I'll throw this to you first. But it's funny, at least for me, I'll phrase it by saying this is where the team in Pittsburgh kind of flips the script a little bit. They finished in the basement on the offensive side of the ball for me, in both categories. They flip it here. But what do you think about the pass rush in the AFC North?
So this is actually tough.
It is.
Because we mentioned the Browns picked up Jadeveon Clowney. You're looking at Myles Garrett on that defensive line. They also added, in like a guy, just a subtle guy like Malik Jackson. He's just, a rotational piece. They got JOK
yeah,
in the draft. So they added some stuff to that defensive line. The Ravens front seven also bolstered. Their linebacking core is ridiculous. The defensive line, they did lose Yannick Ngakoue, but they're still stacked there. They were able to bring back Pernell McPhee. They were able to bring back a bunch of guys on that defensive line. Cincinnati, they're probably last by default.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Steelers, obviously their linebacking core, their front seven is ridiculous. We saw that last year, and we'll get to their pass coverage, but that's the next step. So I'll go. This one is actually really tough, man.
Very.
Pass rush,
but we'll both agree that Cincinnati's fourth.
Yeah, there we go.
Cincinnati's. That's where we'll start, fourth.
Pass rush on paper, I'm gonna go Cleveland. Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. That's a scary set of defensive ends there. Second, this one's tough, man, because the Ravens do a lot of blitzing with those linebackers.
Yeah, they do.
Patrick
By the way, just an ex-Eagle, LJ Fort just went to Baltimore and became a monster.
Monster, dude. Like, man, it's tough because I know the Pittsburgh's linebacking core is ridiculous too. I'm gonna go Baltimore there. Second, it just really toss up. Honestly, I don't really know how to pick it. I'm just gonna go with the stability of Baltimore. I feel like Pittsburgh, their offense may not help them as much if Big Ben's turning the ball over. So let me just go Baltimore second by default, and then Pittsburgh third. But it is a toss-up with those top three there.
All right, this one is very tough for me as well. Cincinnati's in the basement; they're fourth, as from a pass rushing perspective. I do agree with your point on paper. The dynamic of Clowney and Myles Garrett coming off the edges for Cleveland is very scary. But to me, I think this is a year for both of them where they have to prove it. Clowney, has bounced around. He's been a journeyman from team to team the last couple of years. And it's like, he was, rumored to go to the Eagles a couple times and, the Texans, the Titans, wherever else he has fallen so far. This is a big year for him. Myles Garrett has been, has had some issues with injuries as well. I'm going to put Cleveland third, just because I think they are a little less proven. This is 1A, 1B to me. For the top two spots, I think both defenses with Baltimore and Pittsburgh are very good. When those two teams meet up this year, don't expect a lot of offense whatsoever. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. Man, this is tough for me because both teams, Pittsburgh's led by TJ Watt and those boys. And then, like you said, you have Calais Campbell and a good defensive line in Baltimore, but then their linebackers with Patrick Queen and LJ Ford, they use a lot of different packages and bring linebacker blitzes. I think I'm going to go Pittsburgh 1, Baltimore 2, very 1A, 1B-ish here. But I just think, going off of last year, I just remember that defensive line, those linebackers for Pittsburgh causing a lot of havoc. I believe for a large portion of the season, they led the league in sacks. Yeah. And I'll have them Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati. But I think 1 through 3 can kind of go any which way this season.
Yeah, man, I'm looking at Pittsburgh's defense now. And I'm kind of going back. I at least kind of want to put them at second because I'm just looking at that defensive line. I mean, you got Tuitt, Cameron Hayward, Jay Watt.
They still have Bud Dupree or no?
No, they did lose Bud Dupree.
Okay.
Devin Bush, stud
Oh, yeah.
linebacker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely with you. I think I would move Pittsburgh to second, but Baltimore they have a stud front seven too. It is
Dude,
hard.
that's
It's
what I'm
hard.
saying. But your number one it's unproven to me. That's why I have them
That
third.
is fair.
But it's that defensive line in Cleveland can definitely, cause some issues this year and be the best in the division. So
Yeah.
it's going to be very interesting. This division is always interesting every year.
Loaded, man.
Even though the Bengals aren't very good, they got some guys on offense that can score. So their division is very competitive. So that's where I'm going to wrap up the pass rush sec portion. Let's get into the pass defense, the secondary portion here. Scott, do you want to lead this off or should I go for this one?
It's up to you. I can go first here.
Go ahead.
So
this is another iffy.
This is a tough one, man. So for me, it comes down to Pittsburgh or Baltimore again.
Right.
And I guess where I'm going to lean here, Pittsburgh losing Steven Nelson, I think that will hurt them. They still have Joe Hayden. They still have Minka Fitzpatrick, who is a monster. And then you look at Baltimore, they have Marlon Humphrey, they got Jimmy Smith, they got Marcus Peters. I mean, that's a stacked DB core right there. And the other thing is, I guess the Ravens linebackers as well.
Yep.
Devin Bush, I'm gonna go Pittsburgh number one here. Just seeing what they did last year. I get Steven Nelson may end up being a big loss for them. But usually, if you have great safety play, if you have a strong CB1, you can kind of hide CB2 sometimes. Similar to what we did, in the Super Bowl year. We didn't have the greatest DBs back there, but they were hidden by some great safety play. I'm going to go with the Steelers. I think they got a better pass coverage linebackers. So I'll go Steelers, Baltimore, 2 by default because I could have them number 1 easily. And then Cincinnati and Cleveland. I'm going to go Cleveland over Cincinnati. They at least have, the CB1 there and Denzel Ward.
Right.
So I'll ride with Cleveland at 3 and then the Bengals at 4. What are they really doing with their secondary? Hard to tell. They had a couple guys that are getting up in age. So I know did they move on from William Jackson? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
The
NFL, we talked about this pre-show. About this pre-show. The NFL offseason is such a long one. And it's like guys get moved, trades are made in early March. It's the middle of July, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh, that did happen. Or did they still have him? No, they don't. Like, it's such a long offseason, and if I don't lock in and I don't like go through everything, I'm like, I forget that stuff happens. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Either way, I got the Bengals 4th, regardless.
All right. I'm the same with you at the bottom. I got Bengals 4, Browns 3. Again, very close with 1 and 2 with the Steelers and the Ravens here. Both have great defenses, top 5 in the league each, I would say. I'm going to go Ravens 1, Steelers 2. But the linebacker cores are very similar. I would give the edge to Pittsburgh, especially because TJ Watt's listed as a linebacker, even though he plays on the edge a lot. Devin Bush is a freaking stud. I know that they have the Baltimore has Patrick Queen, LJ Fort, and those boys. But then when I get back to the secondary, I know Pittsburgh has Minka Fitzpatrick. I know they have Joe Hayden. However, when I think back to Pittsburgh kind of, starting out 11-0, then they drop off and lose early in the playoffs. Yeah, a lot of that had to do with Ben Roethlisberger. A lot of that had to do with a lack of running the football. But the pass rush was always there. I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me correct, I'm pretty sure the secondary got picked on a little bit as the season went on in that Pittsburgh Steelers defense. When I look at Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, yeah, he can get beat sometimes because he's a ball hawk and he's looking for the pick. But Marcus Peters is a very good cornerback. I'm missing someone in that secondary, but whatever. I love those 2 corners. I'm going to go with Baltimore 1, Pittsburgh 2, Browns 3, Bengals 4. Scott, that wraps up the positional rankings. How do you see this AFC North breaking down, man? Because if there's one thing that's consistent here for me, at least, it's that, the Steelers were bottom on offense, close to the top, if not top on defense. The Browns vice versa. But the Ravens are a consistent 1 or 2 in this division. So for me here, my AFC North early prediction breakdown, Ravens are winning the division. Browns are coming in second and making the playoffs as a wild card. Steelers third, Bengals fourth because they're just too young and don't have enough on defense.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I guess it was a toss-up between Cleveland and Baltimore. Cleveland's getting a lot of hype, as they should. They've really stacked up a really nice roster. They have a great pedigree. They have a great formula. But let's be honest. I mean, they're kind of falling in line with the Ravens formula to what the Ravens are built off of. Great defense, great pass rush, great run offense, and so I'm gonna go Baltimore number 1. They're proven. They got I feel like they got a lot of pressure on them. It's time for Lamar Jackson
to take that next
step, right?
As a passer.
He's been, as a passer, because you see once they get late into the playoffs, these teams focus on the run and they shut.
And that's another thing that goes in. That's another thing that goes into my ranking here is Lamar is great in the regular season, and this is a regular season breakdown.
Yeah,
I ain't worried about the playoff. I ain't predicting them to go far in the playoffs. So that's why I think Lamar can thrive in the regular season. That running attack with Baltimore, along with that defense. I agree with you, man. But he does have to take that next step as a passer this year for sure.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I have the same exact rankings as you. I got Baltimore first, Cleveland second, Pittsburgh third, and Cincinnati fourth, just by default.
Yep.
The rest of the division will be pretty competitive. Pittsburgh's defense should keep them around. But ultimately, I think Big Ben will be their downfall. You know what I mean? So have to have them at third. I think Cleveland and Baltimore, they have a steady – when you have a run game, that just doesn't go bad, right? Like you're going to win some games with a great running game. Like that's reliable. So I'm riding with Baltimore and Cleveland in this division. We'll see if Cleveland can, get to the next step. Last year you saw them get a playoff win. So can Cleveland take that next step as well? They really added some great additions. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, man.
I was just thinking here, sitting here as an Eagles fan, and we're talking about how great these secondaries are. And then I thought of the 2 Travis Fulgham games last year against the Ravens and the Steelers. And I'm like, are they that good? Nah, I'm just kidding. But Travis Fulgham did light up the Ravens and the Steelers in back-to-back weeks. But Scott, let's move on to the NFC North portion of the show where we'll wrap up today's show. We'll do the same thing here, man. Passing attack, rushing attack, pass rush, and pass defense, and then get into everything. Just some notable things that I have. The Lions are a dumpster fire, so every single position I rank almost, they will be fourth. Little teaser for you, the Lions, I have fourth in the division. They trade Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff earlier this year. They lose Kenny Golladay to the Giants in free agency. Complete coaching overhaul. They are a complete and utter mess. And then obviously you have the whole Aaron Rodgers factor. Will he show up to Packers training camp? He didn't show up to anything so far. He's very unhappy with the organization. Who knows if he's going to be hosting Jeopardy or playing quarterback in Green Bay this year. We'll see. But my rankings are based off Aaron Rodgers playing because I just don't see him not playing in the NFL this year for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw in, a few more offseason moves. So obviously the Bears added Andy Dalton, and they declared him as a starter. So I'm going into these rankings with Andy Dalton as the Bears starter, although I would want Justin Fields starting for that squad. We saw Patrick Peterson go to the Minnesota Vikings. Jamal Williams left the Packers, went to the Lions. So he joined a division foe there. And then you mentioned Jared Goff. Other than that, nothing really huge. Obviously, Trubisky left Chicago to take a backup role in Buffalo. Chicago did lose Kyle Fuller. He's a pretty good DB that went to the Broncos. And then Minnesota did lose Anthony Harris, a solid safety, to our very own Philadelphia Eagles. So I did want to throw that in there. But yeah, let's dive into these rankings, man.
All right, man, I'll throw this to you first. Same thing here. We'll start with the pass. Actually, let's do it a little differently this time. Let's go pass defense first.
Okay.
Let's start with the pass defense in the NFC North. Scotty, what do you got?
This one's tough, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna go Chicago first, honestly, and then I'm gonna go Green Bay second. And this is just no. I'm changing that. I'm not going that. I'm going Green Bay first. I know they got Amos and man, what's the corner's name? Alexander. Is it Jair Alexander? Am I tripping?
No. Do they still have Kevin King?
They do have Kevin King. They brought him back.
But I think you might be right. Is it Jair Alexander? Dude, I don't. He's
a lockdown corner. I don't know how to pronounce his first name though.
I got you. Hold on. But continue.
Yeah, so I got Packers first, Chicago second. They still got Eddie Jackson, I believe, in that secondary. Did lose Kyle Fuller. That was your stud cornerback there. I'll go Minnesota third by default, although they don't have much going on back there either. But they at least still have Harrison Smith back there as a stud safety. And then Detroit, you know, what are they really doing? They're last by default. And then also with Minnesota, they did, as I mentioned earlier, they did add Patrick Peterson to that secondary as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays for them. But I'd go Packers, Chicago, Minnesota, Detroit.
So it is Jair Alexander. You are correct there, my friend. I agree with you. Like I said, the Lions are going to be fourth just by default because they suck. They are a complete dumpster fire in Detroit right now.
Shout out to Jason Sullivan.
Jason's a Lions fan.
He's a huge Detroit
Jason, guy. I am so sorry, buddy, but it is going to be a rough year for your Lions.
A rough episode.
Yeah, man. So Lions are fourth. The Vikings are always interesting because 1 week they'll look like a top defense in the league, and then the next week they'll get picked apart. Vikings are number 3 for me. They do have Patrick Peterson now, but outside of that, TBD. I think the two best defenses in this division are the Bears and the Packers. So for both categories, they will be 1 and 2. I agree with you. I think the Packers are the better team in the secondary. I think the Bears defense is very good, but it's spearheaded by that their front seven and their pass rush led by Khalil Mack and those boys. So I'm going to go with Packers 1 with Amos, Kevin King, Jair Alexander, so on and so forth. I like their secondary a lot. Bears 2, Vikings 3, and the we'll call them the Cubs because they're not Lions. They are 4th. Scotty, as far as pass rush goes, just kind of the same thing, just flipping 1 and 2 here for me. I think the Bears had the best pass rush. The Packers are a very good pass rush team. They have a very good run defense, but the Bears with just Khalil Mack, like that just screams at you when your defense is led by Khalil Mack, getting in the backfield, disrupting the QB. That's where I'm going to go. 1, Packers 2, Vikings 3, and the Cubs 4.
The Cubs 4. Yeah, so I'm same exact lineup. I was actually thinking about the Packers first, and then I remembered Khalil Mack. So that's, by default, I have to put the Bears at number 1 there. Khalil Mack is a game wrecker. He's similar to Aaron Donald almost. He can destroy entire games. He can create plays. He can score points. So
Akeem Hicks, Roquan Smith.
I mean, they got some tough guys in that front seven. And then you go to the Packers. They have a very formidable front seven with Zadarius Smith leading the way there. So they had extreme success on the defensive pass rush last year. And I expect them to follow up with that. They just added to their defense, bolstered it more. And then Minnesota, they still have, a decent linebacking core there with, I believe they still have Anthony Barr, right? I'm actually looking.
I think so, yes.
They got Eric Kendricks, got Dalvin Tomlinson, Donnell Hunter is still there. So they got some solid pieces there on the defensive line. So default third, just because, once again, Detroit, what are we doing?
Say what they are. Say what they are, Scotty.
The Detroit Cubs, man.
There you go.
What are we doing here, man? What are we doing here in Detroit? So, I'm with you. Same exact rankings there. So we go Chicago, Green Bay, Minnesota.
Yes.
And, of course, the Cubs at the bottom.
We agree there. Dude, they might not win a game this year. I had to look at their schedule. So I can't say that without looking at the schedule. Maybe they play the Texans. I really don't think the Texans are going to win a game this year. If they don't play the Texans, I don't know who the hell they can beat. They're not beating the Jets this year. Like, I don't know. It is a mess. George says, interesting. You are judging based on players and not the head coaches and defensive coordinators, the brains of the operation. That is a great point, George. I didn't really go into this thing. I just kind of thought from the talent perspective and what the players have been producing. I haven't thought about it that way. But that's a good point. I didn't really think about that.
It's a different perspective.
Yeah.
But to kind of follow up on that comment, I would say I'm going to ride with the Bears still in that situation, just because their scheme. I mean, you've seen it the last couple seasons. Their defense is dominant.
Right.
And the Packers have had a great pass rush. So
if the Bears just had a quarterback, they're fighting with the Packers for the NFC North title.
Yeah, I agree.
But quarterback's a big if there. So let's move on to that side of the ball. Let's go rushing attack first, Scott. I'll start us off here. This one's very interesting to me. I'm going to let everyone know that the Cubs are finishing fourth yet again. Number one, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings simply because Dalvin Cook is a top 3 running back in my opinion. If he can stay healthy, that dude is a monster. So I'm going to go Cook, Vikings 1, Packers and Aaron Jones number 2. Aaron Jones over the last 2 years has turned into a guy I never thought. Like the Packers, remember a couple years ago, like they had no rushing attack, dude. Remember like David Montgomery or Ty Montgomery, was their listed running back, and he was in the backfield at Rodgers, was like number 88 was in the backfield. And you're like, what is this team doing, man? Like, get this dude a running back. And then they bring Aaron Jones, and it's like, I wasn't sold it. Over the last 2 years, this dude is like a solidified like top 8. I'd have to look at it, but top 8 running back. I'll just say off the top of my head,
top 10. I mean,
right,
easy.
So he's number 2 to me. And then I'm going to go Bears, number 3. They still have Montgomery, right?
Yeah, they got David Montgomery, Tyreek Cohen.
Right. And then I'll finish up there with the Cubbies.
Which they do have a good running back in DeAndre Swift, but that it's a dumpster fire there. So like I just don't expect much from them in general. But yeah, I'm with you. Lions at 4. You come back up the list. I do have Chicago at 3rd by default. Now, if they would add in Justin Fields into that offense, maybe he moves out of the pocket a little bit, it could make them a more dynamic team. I do think that he would be kind of a better version of Mitchell Trubisky. I think he's a better passer, but he still has that same mobility, if not better mobility, out in the open field. So if they could get Justin Fields involved in that running game, it could get interesting with Tyreek Cohen and David Montgomery, a bruiser back there. Second, I do have Green Bay. Now, the conversation would have been interesting if they were able to somehow keep Jamal Williams in that backfield with Aaron Jones. I thought they were very complimentary of each other. Who's the guy? Oh, is it A.J. Dillon? They do have him. He's got his legs.
Yeah.
I've seen everybody buying stock in him this offseason, especially with Jamal Williams leaving to Detroit. So it'll be interesting to see if they can work as a tandem similar to what he and Jamal Williams did. But Aaron Jones, like you said, he's established himself as a perennial top 10 running back, if not, even higher. So the guy finds his way into the end zone somehow every single game. Like, I swear every Packers game I watch, and it's probably an Aaron Rodgers effect. Let's be honest. When you're playing it with Aaron Rodgers, he's going to make everybody better. But Aaron Jones is still a great back. And then, as you mentioned, I had Dalvin Cook in fantasy football last year. So no way I'm going against that guy. He's, like you said, top 3, top 4 running back in the NFL, and considerably the best when he's healthy. I think health is the only concern when it comes to Dalvin Cook. The dude is explosive. He gets involved in the passing game in some games, so he can do everything. He's definitely a back that I love.
So George says, how much are you factoring O-line play to running back success? It's definitely up there for me.
Yeah.
Again, I know I said Dalvin Cook won because he's the best running back, and the Packers have a better offensive line, in my opinion, than the Minnesota Vikings. But I just think that, no matter if their offensive line is a little better, Dalvin Cook's just that dynamic to me. He doesn't have Dalvin Cook doesn't have an issue running the ball behind that offensive line, in my opinion. If he did, I would change my tone. Like Joe Mixon's a very good running back, but I think he was third because of the Bengals' atrocious offensive line.
Yeah.
The Vikings' offensive line isn't that. So I can understand the argument for Aaron Jones in that offensive line and the running scheme in Green Bay to be number one, but I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook. Just my opinion.
I would say so. Like to that question, I would just say that I would say like the Packers maybe could be a more effective running team,
Right.
like more efficient. But I think overall running success, Dalvin Cook is the best runner in this division, and they have the best running offense in the division. Now, when you have Aaron Rodgers in your backfield, I just feel like you're not going to be totally run dependent with this offense.
Exactly. So speaking of that, that's where we get into the pass attack, Scott. And that is where I have Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers number one by a freaking mile. This division is so interesting. So I'm going to go Rodgers, Packers one again. This is Rodgers dependent that he's playing. Number two, I do not trust this guy. I do not trust him to win in the playoffs. No, I did not like that, but Kirk Cousins, and it's again for the Washington GM, it's Kirk, not Kurt, because he didn't even know how to pronounce his own quarterback's name when he signs his checks. However, Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings are number two, simply because I think he is the second best quarterback in the division, along with having Adam Thielen and having Justin Jefferson and those guys in the wide receiving core. And here you go, Scott, drum roll. The Cubbies do not come in last.
Yes.
They come in number 3 in the NFC North passing attack, adding Jared Goff. I think they got worse from last year. I think Stafford is a better quarterback. I can't wait to talk about the NFC West and the Rams because I think that is a perfect fit with Matt Stafford and Sean McVay and that defense out west. However, Jared Goff, has been to a Super Bowl. He has question marks. I'm not a Jared Goff guy, but I'm damn sure not an Andy Dalton guy. And if it was Justin Fields, I get the upside, but Justin Fields hasn't yet to play a snap in the NFL. So he's not going ahead of anybody, in my opinion, especially a guy that's been to a Super Bowl. So Jared Goff and the Detroit Cubs come in third, and I wrap up with the Bears and whoever the hell you're putting in at quarterback.
Yeah. So once again, man, we're agreeing here. You did surprise me with the Lions. I thought I may be the only one that might have put them third there. I know everybody rags on Jared Goff, but at the end of the day, like you said, he is an experienced quarterback. The only thing I worry about with the Lions, who the hell is he throwing to? You
Great
lost
question.
Holiday, you lost Marvin.
TJ Hawkinson.
TJ Hawkinson. Hey, he may have a
breakout year. Goff loves his tight ends.
They picked up Tyrell Williams from the Raiders. He was injured most of last season, but if he's healthy, he's a pretty good wide receiver, but definitely not a number one. Got Detroit at third with Jared Goff. Chicago, I mean, it's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? I don't even know what direction they're going with this. You draft Justin Fields, you trade up for him. You're still going to start Andy Dalton. You promised him a starting job. Why would you promise him a starting job? Like, I don't understand that. If you even think you have a chance at landing a quarterback in the draft, I just don't get it. But I guess they're
Justin Fields
going to try to make the playoffs.
Justin Fields will be starting for the Chicago Bears.
You think right off the bat?
No.
Mid-season.
No, I think Andy Dalton is just going to be a dumpster fire in Chicago because, he wasn't good last year with Dallas, but he was sustainable because they have so many weapons in Dallas. They don't have that in Chicago. Allen Robinson is having contract disputes. Outside of Allen Robinson, I'd have to look at the depth chart. I'm, drawing a blank. Jimmy Graham's still over the middle, but he's aging and he's not the same guy he was years ago, obviously.
Mooney's a pretty good young receiver, but once again, not a wide receiver 2. Right. Like, come on.
So I think Andy Dalton is going to – I think that offense is, it's going to be the whole Foles issue last year. That offense was terrible, but then you put in Trubisky in, it's still terrible. This year, especially, again, dude, you remember my Bengals point earlier about this, keeping fans interested, jersey sales, ticket sales, that it's a business, right? At the end of the day, they're not going to be very good. The Bears have a defense to be very good. They have a running game with Montgomery. They can run the football. They have wide receiver one now in Allen Robinson if they can get him, settled, if they can strap him in contract-wise. But outside of that, it comes down to quarterback play. If Andy Dalton's a dumpster fire, the Bears are losing games, why would you not play Justin Fields? People are going to pay to come see Justin Fields. I think that's going to happen. I think it's going to happen in the first half of the season, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And so then just to finish off, same thing, Minnesota at 2, Kirk Cousins. You got Justin Jefferson. You got Adam Thielen. Those are 2 number 1 wide receivers. You ought to put up some decent numbers. You got Dalvin Cook in the backfield. That takes some of the attention away. You got play action. So you should be able to do something there. No reason they shouldn't just come in second by default in this division. And then Green Bay, they lose Aaron Rodgers, they might fall to last, bro. Like, I'm not
for sure.
That's a huge if, but
sure. Unless Love is this,
spectacular guy
coming
building something on the
right
bench there. I don't
who
know.
Knows?
But anytime Aaron Rodgers, as long as he's on the depth chart, I have to put Green Bay number 1. And then obviously Devontae Adams. I mean, that dude's a monster. They got some talented receivers out there. I always just wonder why they don't add more to the offense. Like, they have opportunities. Why not grab, another star wide receiver? I don't understand that. They always put, some middle of the pack guys beside, number 1. I don't know. I wish they would add one more like stud wide receiver to that group. But some people would argue with me, like Valdez Scantling, some of those.
Well, they brought in Devin Funchess, whatever that's what.
Like, no wonder Aaron Rodgers is like fed up. Like, give me a number 2 receiver now. Like, we have cap space. We have room to do this. Like,
even their tight end, dude. Like, their tight end caught so many touchdowns. Like Robert Tonyan. Like,
yeah, Robert Tonyan stud though.
Who? Like,
right.
But is he a stud or is it just Rodgers getting the ball in the red zone?
All force fed to him. Yeah,
right.
It's hard to tell. But
the
Green
one thing
Bay number 1 by default. Aaron Rodgers. Period.
Right. And what I'll say about Rodgers is, if he does play in Green Bay this year and he balls out again, dude, this dude just had a legendary offseason. This man's going out on vacation. He's on islands. He's playing golf. He's hosting Jeopardy. He doesn't show up to a damn OTA or mini camp or practice, anything. He's going to roll in the middle of training camp because I bet you he doesn't show up at first at training camp. I'd bet a lot of money on that. And he's just going to come in and ball out again. Why? Because he's one of the greatest to ever do it. I know he only has 1 Super Bowl ring to show for it, but Aaron Rodgers, talent-wise, is one of the best quarterbacks, I've ever seen play, and will ever play in this game.
The most talented, arguably.
Yes, right. Not the greatest. I think greatest and best are different things. Like Tom Brady is we can have this conversation on another show because I think it would be a lot of fun. Tom Brady is the GOAT to me. I think he's the GOAT of GOATs. But Tom Brady is not the best thrower of the football. He's not the best quarterback I've ever watched with my own 2 eyes. That could be Aaron Rodgers. I said that a couple years ago, and he continues to prove it. There's a difference between best and greatest, in my opinion. So that's that. And then just to wrap up our division rankings here, Scott, I think we're going to agree here. Packers 1, Vikings 2, Bears 3, just because of, I would put Bears ahead of the Vikings with that defense and running game if they had some sort of sustainable quarterback play. Yeah. And I think it's going to be a revolving door this year. Justin Fields, I know a lot of people are high on him. Maybe he could come in and impress me and, elevate them to, a division title or a wild card. But that's TBD to me. Bears 3, Lions 4, because the Cubs 4, because they're a mess, dude.
Yeah, so
sorry, Jason.
We agree here. Green Bay number 1, obviously with the caveat Aaron Rodgers, as long as he plays, number 1. Minnesota and Chicago, I had a tough time picking between. I kind of wanted to go Chicago way, but like you said, quarterback situation is a huge factor here. They just have a mess at quarterback, between Fields, between Foles, between Dalton, they've guaranteed him a starting spot. So they just have a bit of a mess there in that quarterback position, but they do have a great defense, and that should hold them down. It should make them, at least competable, right? Like, they should be able to compete. Justin Fields, like, the thing about Justin Fields, I am high on him, my worry is just that, kind of what George was getting at earlier in the show, the coaching staff, when have they showed that they can put these guys in the right positions to win, to be successful? Their passing game just really hasn't been successful at all.
Nagy has yet to look like he can get along and adjust with his quarterback. And again, we've seen it with Trubisky, we've seen it with Nick Foles, and these aren't great talents. He's getting
yelling
handled,
at him on the sidelines. That doesn't happen.
So the counter is Matt Nagy has yet to have a good quarterback, a good starting quarterback, I should say, because Nick Foles is one of the greatest backup quarterbacks ever. He's not a starter in the NFL, especially not anymore. Trubisky, I've never been a Mitch Trubisky fan, and the day that they traded up to get him a couple years ago was one of the funniest moments in draft history for me, and it proved to bite them in the ass. So, maybe with Justin Fields, he can put it together, but Nagy has, not shown that he can adjust or help his quarterback out. So that'll be very interesting. Will they develop Justin Fields and it works out because he is the most talented quarterback Chicago has had in a while? Or will they just ruin another young quarterback in Justin Fields? It's a big question mark.
Just one follow-up question to the division rankings. Obviously, I had Detroit fourth. Which I do just want to point out, it's not because I hate Jared Goff. I just think
I have no beef with Detroit. They're just bad.
He was decent with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, a plethora of weapons in LA. He doesn't have any of that in Detroit. So that's very worrisome for me in that offense. And it may not be Goff's fault. He just doesn't have much.
And that's the thing, dude. You mentioned DeAndre Swift, and he did impress me, and he's fast, and he's quick, and he's explosive. He's exciting, right? Yeah. DeAndre Swift isn't a workhorse, carry the ball 20-plus times a game, 19-plus times a game. And I think that's another thing that they're going to need a committee in Detroit. I don't know who that committee is going to be. So there's question marks all over this division. Yeah. And I think that's something we can keep an eye on as the summer plays out and as the season starts.
So one last question I had for you. If Aaron Rodgers isn't on Green Bay, where would Green Bay fall on this list for you?
Third.
Right?
Third, because I still think they would be ahead of the Cubs because their defense is good enough to keep them in games and win some games. They'll still have Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, that offensive line. Love would just have to be serviceable.
Yeah.
And I think, even if they only won 4 or 5 games, that's 3 or 4 more than the Lions are going to win this year. So I would have the Vikings 1, Bears 2, and then Packers 3. How about you?
Yeah, I would have to have them over Detroit still, just because. Talent standpoint, Detroit just lacks talent.
Well, you know what? Hold on. Let me rephrase this for a second. Because, I'm sitting here saying Justin Fields, is unproven and a rookie. Well, so is Love. And it's maybe they could still be 2. Because I don't think Love would step in and win the division for them. But if I'm sitting here saying the Bears had the defense, the Bears had the rushing attack, they just need the quarterback play. Well, the Packers have all the same things, if not better than the Bears do. Yeah. So if Love just came in and, was a serviceable quarterback or whatever, made some big plays here and there, I think they could be number 2 in this division. So I'll rephrase that. They're 2 or 3, but definitely could be finished 2.
Yeah, and I can see that as well. I guess the way I look at it is if you've been holding on to Jordan Love and causing all this disruption with Aaron Rodgers, he better be the truth.
Yeah.
So if he can just come out, like you said, be serviceable, I don't see why they couldn't get the number 2 spot, given the revolving door you mentioned in Chicago. Minnesota, you know what I mean? I just feel like they do not deserve to be a number 1 or even number 2 in a division, but somehow they could end up doing that. It is crazy to me, but they just have the most stability, it feels like, as far as their team there. So it'll be an interesting football season, man. This was a great show. We managed to go 1 hour and 15.
Wow.
So love it, dude. This was content filled. So we got the Packers winning the AFC or the NFC North.
Yes.
And we got Baltimore winning the AFC North. So we agree there. Yes, and that's kind of where it all matters, is who's at the top, right?
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how this season plays out. As we mentioned, we will be diving into 2 more divisions next week.
South.
The NFC and AFC South. So that will be fun. We get to talk some Carson Wentz.
Yeah, man. It's been
I'm
a long
excited
time.
for that, man.
It has been a long time. Before we wrap up here, guys, thank you so much for watching, or if you're going to watch us after we get off of here. George, thank you for the comments. Gint, thank you. Guys, as we move forward, Turf Talk will be on Sundays throughout the rest of the summer, and then even when the season begins, we will be on at 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m., leading you into the 1 o'clock window and the hosting as an Eagles pregame show type of deal here with Turf Talk. But as far as DSM Media goes, guys, please follow us on Twitter at DSM_media. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Twitch. Subscribe to our YouTube if you want to be a part of any giveaways. Come August 22nd, free drinks, free food, a chance to win a Devontae Smith jersey, a chance to win free tickets to come into the open practice and hang out with us. It's going to be a really good time. Come out, come interact with us on August 22nd at the second Eagles open practice. We got a lot of big things coming, and just as far as the channel as a whole, we have shows on every day of the week, all different sports, everything. Whether we have Faithful Fanatics will be starting back up with myself and Gint tomorrow, Monday through Thursdays at 4 or 5 p.m. I had to work that out with Gint still, what time we will be going live. Turf Talk every Sunday with myself and Scotty. Scotty talks NBA Monday nights. UFO with JD, Carmen, Terrence on Thursday nights. Diamond Talk with Jeremy and George on Thursdays. Fairway to Heaven with Jason and our man Phil on Tuesdays. And Trending for 4 Quarters with Phil Stifle on Wednesday nights. So, guys, tap into DSM Media.
Yes,
we got it all.
Did you get the you did hit JD's show too, UFO?
Yes,
Thursday?
yes. And
Okay,
Sneaker Savant, JD.
Sneaker Savant as well.
Yes. So, guys, a lot of big stuff going on here with DSM Media. George says you may regret that invite for the 22nd. George, come hang out with us, my man.
If you can make it, my man, we will throw a huge tailgate for George. My man lives overseas, so if you can make it to Philly, join us. We will throw a big shebang for you here on DSM Media. That is not a problem. Also, just wanted to throw out there, as Dylan mentioned, with the regular season, we will have the post-game shows as well. I know after the games, people want to let it out, so be sure to join DSM Media for those post-game shows. But Dylan, great outro, great plug. I don't have anything else to plug in there.
We got a video.
Huh?
We got a video to show you.
We got a video to end the show with. Be sure to tap into DSM Media, guys. We hope to see you on August 22nd. Maybe share a beer, share a slice of pizza, whatever it may be. We will have merch out there. Make sure you're joining us. Subscribe. And make sure you're following me on Twitter at Scotty Drown. Make sure to follow Dylan at DylanJD98. DSM Media at DSM_media. Tap in, guys. Thank you for viewing. And be sure to check out this closing video. Make sure you know what's going on DSM Media. Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.